Hello everyone, or hello the one. Jesus, I thought maybe there are 400 people waiting for this program at this time, but I can only see 4. So I'm off by a multiplication of 10. No, 100. Slobodan says, hello Meran. You forgot the N at the end. And says, Meran 21 Belgrade, how are you, mate? Thank you very much. Good of you to be here. Glad that you could make it. Jack is here. How you doing, Colonel? It's been a long time. And in the Lugani says, Durud Meran. Thank you for that. 24 Mail, London. Jack, have you forgotten how old you are? Or where you are? So supply the info. Throw me the bone. Give me the info. Dr. Evil here. And this is hot. So, what's going on, gang? Guys, girls? And the Lugani says, I met a nice Iranian girl from Tehran in London yesterday. Hope to see where our interaction goes. Oh, lovely. Wunderbar. Ah, there we go. That looks better. A few more people. Ajnika says, can intrusive, Ajna, first, before I read your question, protocol, gender, age, where you tuning in from. I got to know a little bit about you guys. Definitely your age is important, so I know what age category you are in, should you be here or not, if you're too young or not. And otherwise, gender, I got to know how to address you properly, and you know, how it can be more tailored and relevant to responding to your question. And also, where you're tuning in from, which country. So I'll come back to you as soon as I have that. Slobodan says, why I just can't be my old self? Well, because you're never old self. You're always improving. But I know what you mean. But you can't. Because if you seem you think you cannot be your old self because you've forgotten who the boss is. Because you are being influenced by thoughts and what emotions thought can induce or carry as it is programmed to, without consultation with you, who you are. Brain produces thoughts, and thoughts are connected and induce emotions, but none of them have anything to do with you, yet you think your identity or how your mood is dependent on the directive that you receive from the brain, while the brain itself is simply an apparatus, and you've forgotten that it works for you like your intestine. It has a job to do, yet you take its productions, including what it does good and what it is supposed to be got rid of, like your intestine need to get rid of the feces, and the brain also in its production of its duties, it also creates feces, and those feces are intrusive thoughts, and yet you think those are your mandates. Rather than the fact that you are the boss and you are the ultimate power in allowing anything produced by your brain to see the light of day or fall by the wayside. Because you're the only one who can allow it to have any life to it, any actuality to it. So that is why it's kind of a little bit sometimes seems to you, I can't be my old self. You can. You're just being bamboozled by your own belief about the role of brain in your entity, as if it's more than you are, as if it dictates who you are, as if it can reach you, as if it actually is your intellect. It's not. In the video that I have produced, Are You or the Brain is the You, which is based on the experiments of Dr. Sperry, Dr. Penfield, Dr. Owen, Dr. Leibet. These are all world-class Nobel Prize researchers. That echelon of research, through neuroscience and neurosurgery, they have proven beyond the shadow of the doubt, scientifically, that the brain, there are aspects of you that the brain cannot reach. Brain is not an intellect. There is no center for mathematics in your brain. There is no center for compassion in your brain. There's no center, there's no way they can reach your consciousness, manipulate it, change it, or your character, or your gender, who you are. The brain is just a tool, but you don't see it that way. You've been conditioned and bamboozled to think brain is you. Brain is not you, you're not the brain. And Dr. Schwartz in his book, Brain Lock, has shown it to all. So anyhow, let's move on. And so if you are focused on the fact that you are the main character, not apparatuses of you, not your liver, not your kidney, not your brain, not your intestine, then you know the hierarchy, and you can always be who you want to be, who you don't want to be, based on your ultimate power, which is based on and is rooted in your vetoes and your choices. Not what the suggestions and ideas and thoughts and images that the brain pumps up into your head. And Hater Male 17 UK says, Hi Meran, hope your day is going well. I feel like crap now for some reason. I feel sexually attracted to women, but never felt those butterflies. but I felt them for a guy, and my HOCD is, well, that's anxiety. It's got nothing to do with your sexual orientation. Now, you got to understand that by talking to your psychotherapist and let them inform you and educate you about the role of anxiety, the role of amygdala, and the role of caudate nucleus, the midbrain, in the basal ganglia, and the role of prefrontal cortex, and understand the function and malfunction of the signaling system of the brain and the reason for all these anxieties, which causes all these other things that you're talking about. Let them inform you and educate yourself rather than concluding based on some kind of a thought that shows up, which is production of your brain. It's got nothing to do with you. Aliette says, I feel like I'm a different person and it disgusts me. Well, look, it's thought-based. Nothing has changed in you, but you're believing a source that is not credible, and that's your brain. You're giving credibility to what the brain suggests, but the brain itself is not an intellect, so you're actually considering the intellect coming from a source that has got nothing to do with intellect, the brain. So change your understanding and it will change everything else. Slobodan says, I was bodybuilder for like 3 years. I saw as many good-looking males and I didn't give a shit about them. Why just I can't do that? You go, well, because you think you should. You don't have to. As we talked about, everything has a sexual connotation. Everything has a sexual relevance. Even if you see a horse, you could see a round back of it, the muscle of it, and that has a sexual relevance. And then your brain runs with it and goes with all kind of tangent that could possibly be, used in those tangent that the brain has come to understand that is available in the world. So it makes thoughts because it's possible. But you think that's abnormal. Well, that's what the brain does. That's why you're there as a judge to go along your life by choosing your choices and vetoes, with the power of your vetoes and choices, not the power of what shows up. Everything that shows up in the brain shows up. It's got no meaning to you, but you make a meaning to it. You make it relevant to you. Oh, it showed up, that must mean something about me. No, it doesn't. You just have to understand that thoughts should be allowed to be there. But you not need to pay attention to any thought that shows up. Just pay attention to what it is that you're set out to accomplish in life. That's all. Lots of things are in the background of our life. You're going from one end of the street to the other end to go to a store. Lots of other things are happening. People driving, people fighting, people friendly, people sitting having coffee, people talking, people running, people playing, people shopping. All these are in the background. But you don't pay attention to them because you're doing your own thing. Now the brain is like the world. It's got all kind of thing going on, and so you're not supposed to pay attention to it just because it's in the real estate of your own brain. No different. The world, bigger stage, or the brain, smaller stage. Still, there are lots of things in the background that does not concern you, and you're not supposed to be concerned about it, but they go on, and they're allowed to go on. It's part of the function of this whole existence, whether it's in the brain in the form of thoughts or whether it's outside in the form of actuality of people's activity. But you simply allow them to be You don't say, oh, that person said that. Oh, that means something towards me. Oh, that one ran over there. Oh, why did they run? Why did it not run? You just let them be in the background. Same thing. Brain's thoughts, let them be in the background. You choose among all these things that you're encountering, you can see. You choose if I go to that orange place, orange store, get an orange juice or not. I go to that store, buy something or not. I go to that grocery store or not. I talk to this person or not. These are all choices that you have, and you live by that. But when it comes to your brain and thoughts, you think there are no choices, no vetoes. I gotta pay attention and react to everything, and interpret everything. Why? You think anything that is happening here has got anything to do with you? Brain makes 80, 90,000 thoughts a day. None of them are relevant to you. That's why we choose. What's relevant to me? What's meaningful to me? What's according to my values, manners, morals, faith, whatever it is that makes you be who you are. That's how you judge things rather than, oh, it's my brain. Where was the brain 40,000 years ago? But you're still living for millions of years before you were given the brain. But how come suddenly now, since 40,000 years ago, the brain is you and you're following the brain? No. The brain was added to you. There was a you, and now the brain is added. It's doing its thing. So let it do its thing, but you choose of its productions what's relevant, what's needed, what's necessary, what's nonsense. Veto and choose. Watch the video I made. Are you or the brain is the you? And specifically in that about 50 minutes of video, experience of Dr. Libet is very interesting. Very interesting. It shows you that when you make a choice or veto a suggestion of the brain, which you may think, oh, brain does everything, brain makes decisions. But when you actually veto a suggestion of a brain, there is no activity of the brain in there. Brain is not involved in that veto. So who's making the decision? If electromagnetically they measure and the brain is not even alive at that moment when you veto a suggestion of the brain, a decision of the brain. So who's making that veto? So there is something beyond the brain that the brain cannot reach, and that's you. So build on that. You are the master, not the brain. If you understand the separation of brain, you, and thoughts, that's the beginning of your freedom. Freedom from thoughts, freedom from the garbage of the brain, freedom from slavery. Freedom of mankind depends on understanding the separation between brain, you, and thoughts. All right. Aman says, hi, Dr. Mehran. Hey, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychotherapist. I have no medical credentials. I want that to be clear. So don't even joke about it because I don't like it. I don't want anybody to be misled. These are based on my research, my understanding, pondering of scholars of hundreds of years ago. My research helped me to write the books that I've written, but I don't have any medical credentials. My research is independent. So please understand that. 19 male India says, how's your ugly stick doing? Yeah, the ugly stick is there for the people who call me a doctor. I'm going to bring it on and smash it on your heads. All right. Hater says, it worries me. Okay, no, stop worrying. Nina says, hi Mehran, female, 16, SK. What is SK? Saskatchewan? No. South. Where? South. What? Kenya? No. All right. I don't know what SK is. I failed the test. Slobodan says, and lol, groinal on kids of same sex, POCD coming in. I want to cut my brain and feeling out of me. Listen, you are giving credibility to a thought. These are thoughts. Pedophilia OCD, HOCD, harm OCD, responsibility OCD, scrupulosity OCD. These are all just conditions of disorder of the brain's malfunction in the signaling system. You'll never bring any harm to a child, to anyone. You know that. Talk to your psychotherapist, talk to your psychologists who are specialists and specialize in OCD and HOCD and subset of OCD. Ask them to help you to understand that these are subsets of OCD, but you will never act on it. And children are very safe with you. But these are thoughts that you may believe your thoughts, but you're the ultimate decision maker. It doesn't matter what the thought is. You will never let them to be in action. So talk to your psychologist. Hi, the one. Guys, I need to understand certain things about you guys. Age, gender, where you're tuning in from. If I don't have it, I'll pass on your question. Okay? Aliet Brivieska, 18 years, USA. Okay. Beetlejuice, male, 18, Norway. And Prithu, 32, India. The 111 is I'm 18 from Lebanon. All right, let's go to the 111. Says, is there any extreme level of HOCD? All HOCDs are the same. It's a thought-based, anxiety-based. Extreme level, the more you entertain it, it becomes more dominant in you, and to brainwash yourself, and eventually to constantly thinking about it, you rewiring your brain to pay more attention to it, and the thing that you pay more attention to, you're more subjected to it. So the key is to understand that these are irrelevant. Your choices and vetoes are relevant, not suggestions and thoughts. No different than going out in the street and many people say what they want to say. But it's their thoughts and suggestions. You have the choice of accepting or not accepting, or just moving about what it is that you have come out of home to accomplish. But instead, you're going to be paying attention to what people are saying? No. Same thing here. You have your own mandate. You want to accomplish something, learn something, whatever it is you want to accomplish in life. And your brain making thoughts. And when it goes rogue, it makes thoughts that are all irrelevant to you about all kinds of different things. Things that you don't like to eat, things that you don't like to do, the gender that you're not. It's constantly bringing all these things out. This job is to make thoughts. That's what it does. Your job is to simply stay focused on what it is that your preference is, standing your ground and not being swayed by suggestions. If that was the case, anybody that comes to you on your way from school to home and says, hey, didn't they teach you when you were a kid, don't talk to strangers, don't listen to them, don't believe them. They have ulterior motive, they have negative motives. The same thing with the brain. It's got no intellect, it's got no protection of you in that sense. It does what it does, makes thoughts and suggestions, and you're supposed to not pay attention to it. Like any intrusive person that comes along from your school time to your home, tries to sway you, convince you to go somewhere with him or her. But you don't, because you've been taught. You become aware. Same thing here. When intrusive thought shows up, say, I know about you. That's not me, that's intrusive thought. That's not me, that's OCD. That's not me, that's HOCD. That's not me, that's the brain. So you recognize it and then call it for what it is. That's HOCD, that's not me. That's intrusive thought, that's not me. That's the brain, that's not me. So you recognize this intrusion, you call it for what it is, then you let it fall by the wayside. Don't pay attention, don't engage with it, don't interchange with it, and don't exchange energy with it. Don't interpret it and just move on with what it is that you want to do. It's just like you're walking about and you see something is thrown at you, you just move away and you go on. You see some dog poo or something, you don't step on it, you recognize it, you call it what it is. Oh, there's something there, it's not regular pavement. Oh, that's shit. Okay, I go that way. So you don't stand there and engage with, why are you here? Which dog was it? What kind of poo? Let me smell it. You don't. Maybe that's my poo. Or possibly I'm supposed to eat it. Or maybe there's a suggestion here. Or there must be a fate. I see a poo, I got to do something. No, you don't. You see it, it's out of ordinary. You call it for what it is. You recognize it. And then you go on about your business. That's the same thing with intrusive thoughts, HOCD or any kind of OCD. In short, you came late, Mehran. Somebody was missing your life. What do you mean I came late? I was here at 1 o'clock. And 1 o'clock is the time. Aman? And lovely Lily is here. It's been a long time, lovely Lily. 31 female Pakistan says, Assalamu alaikum salam, Lily. How are you, dear Mehran? Good, thank you very much. Happy Ramadan. Oh, is it Ramadan? I'm not so up to these traditions. Okay, it's a healthy month. In Ramadan, you fast, and fast is very good for health. Funny thing is that people fast for their own purposes, but they don't actually do the actual intention, another intention of fasting in Ramadan, which is supposedly you certain percentage of the money that you save for not eating, you give it to charity, you give it to poor, so they could have food. Plus the fact that fasting helps you revitalize and reset your system, and so on. Nina says, now my HOCD feels like I like thoughts about dating girls and it feels real. I just can't get rid of the fear. I'm just afraid that I'm not gonna like to have boyfriend in future. Well, you're afraid of the idea, but you're interpreting a thought to a conclusion. And when you reach the conclusion, there would be no sense for you to try to understand it or research it further, because you've come to a conclusion. Oh, I don't think I would like to date girls anymore, you say. And you're a girl, you like to date boys. Or you come to a conclusion, so you give into a fear, which is really irrelevant to who you are, what your preferences and choices are. But it has to do with the fact that you are bamboozled by believing a source that has got no credibility, your brain. You don't focus on the fact that it's a malfunction of the signaling system of the brain that has caused all these things, and you're taking it as if it's the program, or you're bound to obey a suggestion that is created in your brain. That's the problem. As long as you respect your brain, you will believe whatever the shit that it conjures up. When you understand that the brain got no credibility and it's not your identity, it makes shit up all day long, 80, 90,000 times a day. The fact that you are the boss should be the forefront of your understanding that you are the decision maker, not the brain. Just like if you're a CEO of a company and there's so many people, thousands of people working for you, and they all make suggestions, but you're the one who makes any of those suggestions to become actuality or not. If any of those suggestions can see the light of day or not, they fall by the wayside or not. You make the decision. You choose. You veto. You select. Not those thousands of people that work for you. The suggestions keep coming in, but you're the one who actually is in charge, ultimate power. Same thing with you and the brain. Brain makes 80, 90,000 thoughts a day. But it works for you. You choose any of these thoughts being useful or not, based on your values, your principles, your preferences, what's meaningful to you, what's relevant to you. What's your manners and morals, and what meets your values and manners and morals and faith and whatnot, whatever it is that makes you. On those bases, you allow or you disallow. You're the power. But when you don't understand that, then you are being manipulated, whether it's by people out there or by your own brain. Nina. Beetlejuice says, hello Meron, my HOCD thoughts went away for a month, but they came back worse. Well, that's, as long as you entertain something, it becomes visible. As long as you keep ignoring it, it goes away. Look, when you guys are afraid of a certain possibility when it has no actuality, that fear starts working on your synaptic neurons, and you become more and more focused on it, and you become better and better at becoming fearful to it, because you're, through neuroplasticity, you're creating that kind of emotion, that kind of a mode, that kind of a belief, because you keep thinking about it and being fearful of it. So you're making your synaptic neurons to create bridges to believe in that what you're fearful of. But if you simply do not engage with it, spend time with it, and ignore it, that is like if you've been a great piano player and you didn't play piano for a while, those synaptic neurons that have built bridges between the two that made you a great piano player, the bridges will be marked by a CQ1 protein, and the microglial cells, when you sleep and the brain shrinks, can go find those marked synaptic neurons and destroy the bridges. And then no longer you're as good a piano player as you used to be once. So when you keep ignoring these intrusive thoughts, eventually neuroplasticity takes place and you become very good at ignoring them. And that becomes your norm. You become expert. That, oh, that's bullshit, you ignore it. You don't say, oh, that's bullshit, let me pay attention to it. You say that's bullshit because you recognize it, your radar is on, and you recognize that there's a missiles coming, you just simply dodge it. But you don't go after, oh, dodge it, now let me run after it, see where it goes. That's what you do. Intrusive thought comes, you want to go where it goes. And the brain is expert in that. Is going to go all kinds of places that is irrelevant to you. But it's possible to go because the brain's capability is to go wherever no man has gone before. Because it has become aware of certain things, all kind of things exist in the world through medium, through television programs, publications, lifestyles, all kind of propaganda, all kind of things. Has become aware of all things that could be possible in this world. That has seeped through the brain, and brain is aware of it. So when it gets an opportunity, it makes what it is. It knows that it can be possible, but it's irrelevant to you. It's just making what can be possible to be made, and things that are totally irrelevant to you. But it doesn't consult your brain or who you are. It doesn't consult you in there and who you are, what your preferences are before it makes thoughts. It makes thoughts because it's possible to make thoughts. That's what its job is. But you turn around and follow it. Where does the brain goes? The stupid brain, that it goes somewhere, you go where it goes. Like the missile came, you dodge, but you turn around, run after it. Why do you dodge then if you're going to go run after it? Because you're curious to see where does it go, right? And that's the brain again. You command says, look, I just dodge it. I don't care where it goes. Go hit wherever it hits. It's not my thing. I'm not responsible for it. So intrusive thought comes in, I'm not responsible for it. I don't have a mandate to find out why it came here, where it's going, what it is meaning. None. All I care is, well, I'm not interested. That's my choice. Therefore, let it fall by the wayside, wherever it goes. I'm not going to follow it, because if I follow it, then it has a mandate. It's going to go to all kind of tangents, and you're going to be seeing and subjected to all the shit that is going to imagine and suggest, which all of them are irrelevant. So you're torturing yourself for what? It's like you watch a movie and you see it's disgusting to you. It's all violence, or it's some kind of a topic that you're not interested. So what do? The brain says, let's see where it goes. And you say, no, shit, I don't give a shit. I turn it off. That puts everything, but you stay in there and you get anxious and angry and fearful and subjected to all its stories that's got nothing to do with you, but you start being focused on it, start believing that maybe the movie is true, and you get affected by it, and at the end of the movie you feel shitty and say, why did I even watch this? Well, you could have made that decision right away. Don't follow the missile. Dodge it. Intrusive thought shows up. Not my cup of tea. Thank you. Adios. You go on. That behavior shows the brain that you're not afraid or interested to see what the brain conjures up. You have your mandate and choices and vetoes, and you say, that's not up my values, therefore I'm not going to spend time and energy. The whole idea is to save your energy. You know, it's usually challenging for people to pay attention to something. But when something dangerous comes, something that is not of your interest, therefore it feels danger, and you're programmed to protect yourself against danger, then you want to find out more about it. Sometimes that you find your attention goes toward these intrusive thoughts is because you want to protect yourself, to find out where it goes, what it can do. That is why you stay with it. What I'm trying to tell you is, don't be interested in that. Just the fact that is not of your cup of tea, just the fact that you do not choose it, Don't worry about what it is, where it goes. Just simply diss it. It's the easiest thing. Least amount of energy spent, and the most effective way of causing neuroplasticity by not paying attention. You don't want to be good at paying attention to them. You want to be good at not paying attention to them. How? By not paying attention to them. That creates the neuroplasticity. You rewire your brain, and your brain understands that whenever it conjures up these things, you're not sensitive to it to want to know what it is. So okay, the hell with it. And then it says, well, there's no engagement here. So there's no surprise, there's no fear. It can't feed on it. It can't get energy from your fear to bring attention to what it conjures up. Therefore, you kind of train your brain to stay away. I'm not interested in these things. When you feed a certain thought, it becomes encouraged to make more. You know? And there is this very, very old, I guess, proverb or example. An Indian chief, his grandson, the little boy, was asking something about, I don't exactly remember how it went, but I think he said, the child said, they say there are two wolves. I hope I don't butcher it, that they're always in the fighting, the good and the bad. And he says, Grandpa, which one does it win? Or the grandpa was telling him a story. Anyhow, I butchered it heavily. So Grandpa says the one that you feed. So in other words, if you keep paying attention to something that you don't want to pay attention, then that will appear more and more. That's the one you're feeding. Intrusive thought shows up, you pay attention to it, you try to see what it is, and curious, why is it there? What does it have to do with me? Instead, you just choose that I have nothing to do with it, I'm not interested, let it be. The more it shows up, doesn't matter, let it show up. I'm just going to do my own thing. So you don't feed that energy. I know I butchered that example, but anyhow, you get the gist of it. So, anyhow, now, no, Nina, you're gay, you know that. You're not gay, you know that. You're heterosexual, you know it. You're homosexual, you know it. No, it's not like one day you wake up, oh, I'm not this gender, I'm the other gender. No, these are your brain that have lost its automatic system of shutting off intrusive thoughts. There's a malfunction in the signaling system of the brain that these intrusive thoughts hover, stay, rather than being shut down and dissipate. That's the mechanism and the program of the brain. When it goes malfunction, doesn't do its job right, then you start thinking, oh, maybe that means something about me. No, it means there's a malfunction in the signaling system of your brain. That's what it does. That's why it's there. But people don't think, oh, there could be anything wrong with my brain. Brain doesn't, nothing goes wrong with the brain. It's me, what I think, I can see, I'm thinking. Well, yeah, that's exactly why it's gone wrong, because you were not thinking this way. It's like you're healthy and going to sports, and suddenly one day you don't feel good and you feel like you have a cold. You understand that this is abnormal, it's not yourself, then you call it a malfunction, a cold, a bit of a sickness, a disorder, and you set out to find out how you can fix it and learn about it. But when it comes to the brain, no, my brain never goes bad. It's me. Brain doesn't break down. Yeah, brain breaks down more than anything else. There are more mental disorders, mental health problems and issues with the people around the world. Every single one of us have mental issues. Every single human being on earth has intrusive thoughts. But when the caudate nucleus in the basal ganglia, in the striatum area, in the midbrain works perfectly, it's like the automatic gear shift of the car that it changes gear when it's supposed to change. It's a lever. It shuts down intrusive thought. That's why it's there. But when it's malfunctioning, the intrusive thought, as shows up in every human being on earth, it doesn't get shut down because caudate nucleus is malfunctioning. When it doesn't get shut down, it stays there. And when it stays there, you think, oh, it must mean something, because it's not, it's staying there. It's staying there because the system is not working as it always used to. Because these sort of thoughts were always there. But if they would show up, then the caudate nucleus would shut it down and say, wow, what was that thought? Oh, it's gone. But when it doesn't do as it's designed to, then you say, oh, no, you haven't changed. You don't change. You're born heterosexual, you'll be heterosexual the rest of your life. You're born homosexual, you're homosexual the rest of your life. It's not a change. Okay, you're born heterosexual and you say, okay, now I'm turned homosexual at a certain age. Then what's to stop you from turning from homosexual back to heterosexual again at a different age? I mean, if you can change from this to that, then you can change from that to this. How come then you're supposed to not think that way? Why not changing to something else after that? And then back to this one, and then back to that one. What stops it from constantly oscillating back and forth? So you can see, it's not the fact that you're changing gender, your mentality, your brain is giving false signals. How come we don't hear so much about the other way, that I changed to this, then I changed to that, then I changed? Only we change once? On what basis? The delay fuse? What, is it joke? Certain part of your life you're this and then you're that, and then that's it, but no longer this again? What? It's all mental stuff, guys. If you understand it, then you have no fear of it. But the idea that you love who you are so much, it puts you at fear even further than you should be, and therefore you become really sensitive and you're constantly looking, oh, is there something that I should watch for? So when you're constantly looking for something that you should watch for, then these things come into your mind, because your brain is designed to protect you, and you've geared it to protect me against this, what I don't want to be. I'm a heterosexual, I don't want to be homosexual, so I'm geared to that. You're homosexual, you don't want to be heterosexual, so you're geared to that. You're constantly now looking for that, and the brain is going to produce it, because that's what your attention has gone through. So simply allow these thoughts to be there. Don't be so sensitive about it. Okay, yeah, brain says you're gay. Okay, fine, thank you. I make my own choices. You can make your own suggestions, but I don't have to listen to your suggestions. So stop it. You don't stop it, okay, bring it on. I don't care. You know? So then you're no longer, the brain sees there is no energy spent on this. And when there's no energy spent on this, the brain stops, because there's no fear created. There's no sparks of the neurons going nuts because, oh, something feared you. No, okay, that's part of some people's lifestyle, part of life, and it's out there. So, okay, it's irrelevant to me. So the brain wants to produce that kind of thought? Okay, produce it. But I'm not going to be defending or stopping you from, producing those thoughts. You can produce it. But I'm not going to pay attention to it. Why? Because my interest is somewhere else. Simple as that. So you're relaxed about it, and then brain gets relaxed. You're excited about it, brain gets excited. Because the brain is a follower of you. So you set the tone. Brain brings something that is not to your liking, is not aligned with your values, then don't pay attention to it. So brain will follow and mimic what you're ordered subliminally. Subliminally. All right, I hope I'm making sense. Yeah, Nina, stop reading all those bullshit. You know? Stop reading like that nonsense. Just, the problem with you guys is that you try to bring certainty and assurance and evidence and approval and certificate that I am heterosexual. You don't need certificate. You're heterosexual, you're heterosexual. You don't have to prove it. But you think because you're perfectionist, you're die-hard heterosexual, that a thought of homosexuality or suggestion of it has appeared in your head. Now you gotta go look for proof to prove to the brain, the fucking brain that doesn't even exist. It's just thought. You want to prove to a thought that you are who you are. But you're the entity and that this thing, it works for you. The brain has no existence in reality and actualities, thoughts and ideas and images, but you who have actuality as an entity, you want to prove to the non-existence of the brain's suggestions that you are who you are, versus the brain is actually just an apparatus. Can you understand what I'm saying? You're constantly trying to prove because you're a perfectionist and you think you need to reassure yourself rather than simply face who you are, who you've always been. Your selections and choices and vetoes have always been in action in your life, and you've made your choices based on who you've been. And suddenly, because you're perfectionist and you love who you are and you're protecting it so much because there's so much talk about all different lifestyles and you don't like it, so you're protecting, even more protecting yourself, so you become in tune to that slightest suggestion or notion of something, you associate that to something else, and this, that could mean I'm gay. Therefore now I have to prove I'm not. So I'm gonna watch now. Did I kind of notice the muscle of that man? Oh my goodness. No, we are programmed to notice everything. We notice horse's ass. We notice other people's muscles. We notice their looks. We notice their good looks. We notice their ass. We notice their eyes, nose, everything, and then the brain runs with it as long as anything that could have any sexual relevance. And most everything in this life about human being has sexual relevance. Even your car has sexual relevance. If it's got, I don't know, a convertible, a sunny day, and you see a nice car shined up, you could get a sexual arousal out of it and say, why? I'm a carosexual. No. It has a sexual connotation and association, and the brain is very fast to bring all that together and make a sexual reaction out of it. And then you say, what does that mean? Nothing. That's how it works. You don't interpret things. You live by your choices and vetoes, not by interpreting what the brain is capable of doing, the association in a second. You can see anything. And it could have a sexual connotation, and then it could associate with concept of sex, and then you could get some kind of reaction, and then you go, what triggered? It was a male triggered, so that means I have a sexual interest in that male. No. It just simply has these associations to the concept of sex, and then your body reacts to that thought, to the concept of sex, and then you interpret it further, which you shouldn't. God damn it, you guys. Just live your lives. Stop believing your brain. Your brain is no different than your ass. It just shits. That one is clear. You accept it because it's physical. This one, you try to find out, is it shit? Is it relevant to me? Is it not relevant? Why? Why do you need all that? Just choice. Your choice. You've been this all along. You are this, and you will always be this. But the brain interferes with you and messes with you, and you give into it. You believe it. Pay no attention. Like people say shit all day long. You don't pay attention. Go about your business. Do the same thing here with your brain. Aman says the yellow strap looking good on your hand. Is it Apple Watch? Yes, it's an Apple Watch. It's been gifted to me by my son. It's yellow, my favorite color. Katrina Andrea. Oh, Andrea, I remember. You're a man, but your last name is Katrina. And you forgot the protocol, right? Muhammad is here, says, hi, doctor. I'm not a doctor. I am not a doctor. Can I say it in different languages? I want everybody in their own language write down, Mehran is not a doctor. And Muhammad says, I have OCD breathing since 2015 and I cannot sleep without Seroquel. I just want to know what happened exactly. However, I need to know, does insomnia goes away when I get this under control? Of course it does. Talk to your doctor. He or she knows best. I'm not a doctor. Once having said that, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. When you think about breathing, there are two breathing systems that we have. One is the regular breathing system, rhythm. It's called pre-Butzinger complex, that is responsible for your breathing normally. With a deep, long one or short ones, but that's the one responsible for your normal breathing. Then there's another system called parafacial nuclei. That's the one that allows you to manipulate your regular rhythm of breathing into different kind of breathing. Just like when you cry or laugh, you breathe differently. You know, that you're breathing, but it is not using the, pre-Butzinger complex system. It is using parafacial nuclei. And so that allows you, that secondary system allows you to breathe differently. But at all times, your dominant system of breathing, pre-Butzinger complex, it's involuntarily. You can't stop it if you want to. You cannot stop breathing if you wanted to. It's very simple. You're afraid of not breathing? You think it's possible? It's the most fundamental program that your whole life is based on it, and it will never stop until you die. After you die, it stops. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that it is totally contrary to the concept of life. Like you have an option to manipulate the rhythm of the breathing by the two systems, the secondary system that I explained, parafacial nuclei. But you don't have any option to stop it. You cannot stop your breathing. Try it. Try it. Just take two fingers, put it here, and keep your mouth shut. You will see at the right time, it will take your hand away because it is engraved in your programming for survival. It kills to breathe. That powerful instinct in you will assure you, will certify you, will, what's the word? Guarantee your breathing. Because every single cell in your system is all together on that. They all want oxygen. They're not going to let you deprive them. They're not going to let anything deprive them. Even if you put your hand on it, they will take your hand away because it's more powerful thing in there, your survival, than your willpower. Your willpower cannot even stop you from breathing. Your willpower cannot even stop you from breathing if you intentionally want it to stop. That's how strong that system is. So the rest of it is just, again, the malfunction of the brain that wants you to believe that it cannot. Even if you believe that the brain is right, it won't stop. Your breathing will continue. Jump in the lake. Go in there. You can see you want to breathe. That's why you come up. You can't have any control on wanting to breathe, whether you're awake or not awake. It does its job and it fights to hell and back for nobody and nothing, including you, to stop it from breathing. It will continue breathing. You gotta understand that. All right. Ash says, I've come to collect my peanuts. What the hell is that? Where are you getting at? And, oh, okay. There it is, new batch of questions. My goodness. There's 16 people here and 1,000 questions. What the hell is going on here? Nina says Slovakia. Oh, I got it. SK is for Slovakia. Okay, thank you for that. Beetlejuice, you don't need proof by any way means. You don't need to dream about girls to be now considered as a proof that I am. No, you don't need to dream about anything. Your choices, what you prefer, you know that. Then the rest of it is static. What the brain suggests, what the feelings, emotions, and thoughts and images, all that nonsense, irrelevant. Do not allow your brain malfunctioning brain determine your gender. Your gender has always been there since you were born. It was put together in the wombs of your mother. That's not going to change. What's changing is the brain's malfunctioning and functioning properly or not. That's what you got to address. You believing your brain as if the brain is you, as if the brain is the ultimate deciding factor. It's not. Watch my video, Are You or the Brain is the You? And when you get to Dr. Leibetz's experiment, as there's Dr. Sperry, Dr. Penfield, Dr. Owen, Dr. Leibet, these are all Nobel Prize research echelon. And you can see neuroscience and neurosurgery has proven beyond the shadow of the doubt that your brain is not even involved electromagnetically, even. There is no function when you make a selection or when you make a veto against what the brain has suggested. Meaning you're way above the brain. Brain cannot even reach. You're the intellect. Brain is just an apparatus, is an organ. Don't follow brain. God damn it, what can I do with you guys? All right. Yeah. So why is it, Ash, that you actually see that instead of believing you believe the brain? You do something that you like, and it's with girls, and you imagine, or whatever it is that you enjoy. You don't consider that. But what the brain comes after and suggests that you're not this gender, you're something else, when you actually, your preference and your selection and your experience is different than what the brain suggests, but you believe the brain. And you say, oh, maybe why? Why would you, if you have a tomato and it's red, and you say tomato is red, and somebody walks by and says, but that's not a tomato. Or you say, oh, what can I do now? This guy says it's not a tomato. Why the fuck would you listen to that guy? He's an idiot. It's a tomato. Looks like a tomato. Colors like tomato. Feels like a tomato. Tastes like tomato. It's a tomato. But that guy said it's not. Who gives a fuck? Oh, my brain said that you're not heterosexual. But you say you are, and you like to be, and that's your choice. But what the fuck does the brain have to do? It's no different than consulting with your ass. Oh, my ass produced a little watery shit today. That might mean something. That might have something to do with my gender. No, it doesn't. Why do you interpret it that way? You see, that's exactly like that. You're taking cues out of something that is subordinate to you, and it's got no intellect, but you consider it intellect, and you consider your intellect not intellect. It's a problem right here. All right. Andreas is male 23, Romania. Alexander Orid says, hello Mehran, how are you? I'm satisfied from your explanations to me. Your help was most helpful than my 35 therapy sessions. I want to ask why I sometimes lost in my thoughts and feel that they are real. Because it's a great question and it needs a little bit elaboration. Let me see where I want to start. I want to ask why I sometimes lost in my thoughts and feel that they are real. But you lost in your thoughts because you choose to go in there when there's nothing to be relevant to you, or you think you have to pay attention to thoughts. You have somehow bought into the idea that thoughts have credibility. You think thoughts are a message. You think thought are rooted from intellect. Your understanding of how thoughts come about is fucked up. That's why you give credibility to a thought, because you think the source of thought, being the brain, is your intellect, and you are to be following the brain as brain is your leader. So what the brain conjures up, produces, thoughts, must be worshipped, must be taken seriously. That's the whole wrong premise. Brain is not an intellect. Thoughts are not you. Thoughts have no message in them. They're not beyond you. You're not supposed to be looking for answers in thoughts that show up and pop up in your head. You're supposed to understand how thoughts are put together. Where do they come from? I've explained that in video number 11 in my playlist, Intrusive, Transient, OCD, HOCD, Negative Thoughts. In video number 11, I've explained how thought are formed, relationship between thought and consciousness. And then video number 8 explains why intrusive thoughts are at all possible, even though you have no intention for them to be presented. But why are they possible? Video number 8 in the same playlist. In playlist Intrusive OCD, HOCD short videos, and they're not short, I just named it that way. I thought they're going to be short. I have a number of videos that clearly explains to you and proves to you beyond the shadow of the doubt the separation between brain, you, and thoughts. That sets you free. All your life you've been fooled to believe, convinced by just lack of knowledge and teachings, that brain is you. That brain is you, and you're supposed to follow brain. But the fact is, brain is not you. Brain is not intellect. Brain cannot even reach who you are in aspects of you that the brain cannot reach. Brain is an apparatus. Brain needs to be trained. One of the missions of life is to train your brain. Everything you buy from the store, you bring it home, you customize it to your needs. A video machine, a DVD machine, you program it in the functions that you want. You don't use it as necessarily as factory setup, according to your timing and the programs you want, whatever, adjustments. Even computer you buy, you configure it differently. If you use that computer the way it comes from the factory, there will be some things that is not really fitting your lifestyle, purposes, programs that you need, things you want to create. So you modify them according to what's needed. But the brain, you don't do any modification. You don't learn anything about it. You don't train it. Ah, that's the brain, okay. And then when it goes malfunctioning, you don't even notice it. Because you say, oh, what the brain says. I've been conditioned all my life that what the brain says is my intellect, is me. So I'm the follower of the brain. So in other words, there was a me worth nothing, shit, and they put a brain on me, now I'm somebody. No, you lived for millions of years before the fucking brain was even given to you. You had no brain. You had stem brain. Everything was instinctive. You would sleep, you would run, you would hunt, you would eat, you would have sex, your sexuality, your gender was clear, no doubt about it whatsoever. But then 40,000 years ago, you were given this brain and given the ability to think and speak. From that second that you were able to speak and think, problems started. Perceptions, all kind of thoughts that are created 80, 90,000 a day, and you start thinking that the brain is you. Thoughts are the roots of all problems, and that started when you got to have a brain 40,000 years ago, after millions of years of living and having no such problems as we have today, OCD, HOCD, and all these kind of things, only because we were able to think. and speak, that's when the problems started. And you don't see that. Thoughts are the roots of all problems. If you separate yourself from the brain and the thoughts that it makes, you're free. And that's what you're supposed to do. Train your brain. Don't buy into the bullshit. What can I say? One of the problems that most of you are facing is that you're trying to convince yourself of this or that. Stop convincing yourself of anything. Live your life. Something shows up, just see it, observe it. The problem is that you are perceiving everything rather than observing it. You see a good-looking guy. There's a good-looking guy. Okay, I saw a good-looking guy. Great. I'm good looking. You're good looking. You consider yourself good. You see somebody else. Suddenly it's bad. If you notice your own good looks, it's okay. But if you notice somebody else's good look, oh, that's homosexuality, is it? Why? Why can't you notice somebody else's good look? The problem is when you notice another male's, another same gender's good looks, you don't just simply take it as an observation that that person's good looks, that good muscles. Must be good with girls, those muscles. Oh, great. I would like to, because you can see how that works. But then you interpret that. You perceive that. What does that mean? I notice somebody's good look. What does that mean? I notice their muscle. What does that mean? Is there any underlying meaning in that? No, it just fucking means you notice a good fit person's good looks and muscles, and you can identify with that as you would like to have those muscles and to be good looking because you know how that would make it, be when you are with your girlfriend or with a girl. You would be attracted. The girls would be attracted to you. So you can see all that association. The brain does that association in a second, and because of that, then you have certain kind of a admiration toward that good look or good fit person, and then suddenly say, oh, that admiration means inferiority. That inferiority means, oh, I have a sexual interest in that guy. No, these are connotations and these are associations that the brain makes, and it's natural because that's how you also are looking to equip yourself in order to be attractive to girls. You see all that connection, and the brain makes you think that suddenly, instead of observing that what it is, you interpret it, you perceive it. The problem is that you perceive everything rather than observing. I see a nice looking horse has got a nice strong ass, good hindquarters. But the brain is not going to stop that. It's going to go with sexual connotation of it, and because it's possible to go. And you follow it rather than say, okay, fine, but that's not what I'm interested in. That's it. Yeah, well, I can notice that, what your brain is trying to say, whether it's a horse or whether it's another person. I can notice that, but okay, that's possible to notice this. But what does it have to do with anything? I'm not supposed to be following what the brain's capability and possibilities and interpretations are. I'm just saying observe it and go. Observe and go, observe and go, observe and go, observe and go. Don't perceive. Don't interpret. Meaningless. Because you can interpret and perceive anything to anything. So what are you going to do? I can take a look at this computer and say, find something, let my brain go somewhere. Maybe who designed the computer? What did she look like? What did he look like? All kind of bullshit can come up. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is just simply live your life by observing, being an observer. No further detail is necessary. Observe life. Don't perceive everything, because then it goes somewhere that has got no reality to it. But because the brain doesn't understand the difference between reality, actuality, and virtuality, when it goes to virtuality and comes up with all kind of connotation and associations that is not even your choice or interest, but it's there, then the brain thinks that it is actuality, and you start believing the virtuality that is work of the brain is now possibly an actuality, or should I think of it as an actual? You get all kinds of flowing around with these tangents and unnecessary. So that's why you just simply want to observe life. Yeah, good looking guy. Okay, great. Good looking girl. Okay, great. But because when you see a good-looking girl and you go, oh, it would be nice, oh, it's nice legs, oh, wow, look how pretty, oh, nice hair. You do all these things, and sex has been so important in our lives. And then anything else you see, you could also think this, especially if the brain is going a little bit overactive. You could see a horse, you could see another same gender, you could see a car, you could see any kind of a thing, and then have similar kind of interpretations and details and things about it, because you're conditioned that way. And these days there's so much irrelevant information out there that brings attention to things that we never were really paying so much attention to in the 50 years ago. But nowadays everything is being part of the propaganda. This gender, that gender, talk about this lifestyle, that lifestyle. Just let us be. Everybody has their own preferences and their own personal lifestyle. It doesn't need to be on TV. It doesn't need to be taught so much. It doesn't need to be promoted. It doesn't need to be. Why do you have anything to do with promoting whose gender is what and what it should or should not be, and turning all different kind of tangents on presentations of girls and boys and all that, and all boys are being propagandized as being feminized now. Feminine clothing they're wearing. All so fucked up. And all these things that are coming out in the media, well, of course the brain picks up on it, and it's got capabilities of making thoughts about it. But you paying attention to these thoughts causes things that you are not interested in. Therefore, observe, don't perceive, don't pay attention to thoughts that don't interest you. Don't try to figure out why they're there, why are they advertising. Because the brain has the capability of going all different tangents, so don't give it that opportunity. Let it go on its own. You don't follow it. You just observe and pass by. And focus on what it is that your path is on. Focus on your own preferences. All right. All right. Mr. Smith says, hi, I'm from UK, aged 36, male. Thank you for all your videos and wisdom. It's helped me a lot. I'm still suffering from a breakup over a year ago, but still feel lost and depressed. I've tried to date other women, but become more disheartened as it becomes clear she was the only one for me. Really? So the only one for you is the one who doesn't want to be with you? Is that how fucked up your head has gone? To believe that somebody else's preference is going to dictate your preferences? If she's not interested in you, but that's the one you should be interested, like, the qualified woman to be with you is the woman who doesn't want to be with you. That's how you think about yourself? Where's my ugly stick? I mean, you're new here, are you, Mr. Smith? You're not familiar with ugly stick, are you? I mean, I may have to introduce it to you. Put your motorcycle helmet on, it's coming right to hit you on the head. Because what you're saying is rather having made a deity out of her and thinking that she's the love of your life, but in fact, your desire for pleasure is what dictating your opinion about her. On her own, she's nobody. She has no power. The fact that she's so interesting to you is because you desire her. So is it her on her own that is so important? Or is it your desire that for her, that for pleasure from her, that makes her important? Think about it. Is she needed and important on her own merits because of what she has provided to the world? She feeds the hungry and takes care of the elderly and cures the common cold and brings to the universe a better life for everyone. Is that why she's important? Or she's important because you desire her? So is it your desire that is the reason for importance? Or is it her effect in the universe that has made it a better place is why she's so important? I've used that for a simpler thing. Is it the apple that is so important? Or is it your hunger that makes apple to be so important? Because when you're not hungry, the apple is not important. You come out of the restaurant with your friends, smorgasbord, and you filled out. You come out, you pass by the store that they sell apple. You don't look at it. But when you're hungry and you pass by the same store, you see the apple, say, oh my goodness, apple. I'm willing to buy it for $10. So is it your hunger that makes apple important, or the apple is important on its own? Is it her on her own so important, amazing, the right person for you? Or is it your desire for her that makes her so important? So you're in love with your desire. Unleash that to another girl, because they will provide the same thing. If you didn't know of this one the way you used to, the way you know her now, because of your experience with her, if you didn't know anything about her, and you didn't know anything about another woman, and they were both pretty much good looking, you wouldn't think of her as being the one for me. Why? But the fact that you had an experience, physical pleasure, and it fulfilled your desire for pleasure, and you cannot compare that with another woman that you have had recently the same kind of a pleasure with. So she seems to be the only one in the world, because there's no one else that you can compare or bring into the picture. It's like no competition. And at this time, until you have other competition, other experiences with similarly fitness and looks of a woman, and then you may actually say, my goodness, this woman is so attentive, so amazing, so honest, so creative, so pure, and I love her. I don't want her anymore. But when you don't have anything similar to compare with, that's the only one that you have experienced pleasure through your desire. So that's the only one that seems to be the right one, because you have nothing else. It's like saying, I have this car, it's the best car in the world. But you haven't seen a Bugatti or a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or some other car that you like. So to you, the reality of life is only that car that you're driving that gets you from here to there. That's the car that gets you from here to there. So that's the car that is most important to you. That's the best car in the world, because you have no other experience or any possibility to have any other experience. Therefore, that's your reality. Therefore, you think that is the right car for you, because everything seems fine. Hmm? And when they steal that car, you never got to the point to see that that car doesn't work properly compared to the other cars that are available. But they stole it. It's not there anymore. So, oh, that was the best car. No, it wasn't. That was the car you had. That's all you could have afforded. To you, that's the best car based on what was possible for you and available to you, what was realistic to you. So, again, coming back to that, is she important based on her own merits and contribution to the world? Made the world a better place? Or is it your desire for her that makes her so important? So the source of her importance is actually you, not her. The source of importance of an apple is your hunger, not the apple. If you're not hungry, the apple means nothing. If you've got another prettier girl out there, you wouldn't pay attention to this. Especially that this one has rejected you, now suddenly she's more valuable. Because I don't like to be rejected. My ego says, oh, I'm rejected. No, I gotta have her. Now I want her more. So you have more desire. So it is all about you and your desire. The source of her importance is you, not her. If you understand this, then unleash this source onto somebody else. All right. Gunther says, 20-year-old from Germany, is it normal that during phases of undesired arousal, it feels like I actually want it? Listen, you have arousal in any shape, tape, kind of form. You're not focusing on the origin of a reason for arousal. You're thinking about the feeling of the arousal, so you'll enjoy it. Because right that moment that you got arousal for the horse's ass, there's so many other girls and so many other reasons and experiences in your brain that is going to be allowing this arousal to be enjoyable to you. But if the trigger moment brought your attention that it was a horse's ass, or some naked body of some man, that because the brain makes association with naked sex, and sex has a different connotation, and then it goes to association with the concept of sex, not the person, and then you get arousal because of the concept of sex, and sex with you is with women, and then suddenly, but you see the trigger was that guy. You forget about all the other thing that went on for you to get the arousal. You see the trigger because it had the sexual relevance, and it took you somewhere where the brain takes you and then reacts without any kind of a consultation with your values or anything. Instinctively, it just gives it arousal because it had enough connotation and association with the concept of sex, which is meaningful to you. But you don't see any of that. You only saw what actually triggered it, and the mechanism to you means nothing. It just means like, oh, that was the reason. No. So any kind of arousal, you get arousal to, I don't know, empty seat in an airplane because it's, I don't know, sexy. Some people have sex in the airplane. You've heard it. You've seen it in the movies. You somehow get aroused. Are you going to question that? There was no human being in there, but maybe you saw some romantic setting in a restaurant you're passing by. It's nice, candlelight and all that. It's nighttime and you see, oh, what a beautiful table for two. You could get arousal because the connotation goes, some pretty girl sitting somewhere with you, and the whole atmosphere. Well, you're going to say what? You're not going to question that. But because there is a living being in there, I mean, if there was a cute, smooth dog or horse or some animal, you wouldn't really be, you say, oh, well, that's funny, I got an arousal there. But if it's a same gender, which has the same connotation of naked sex and so on and the rest of it, suddenly you, oh my goodness, why? It's not your doing. No interpretation needed. Brain is not going to consult with your values before it gives you arousal. You're the one who chooses any action on that arousal or not. That's where you come into the picture, and that's all that counts. All right. Sloboda, now you're talking. Andrea says, 23-year-old male, Romania. I'm afraid that my ex-girlfriend is now with somebody else. We were in a relationship for 6 years. 6 years? God damn it, you were 17, you're 26, 23 years. You have no business wanting to be the same girl. You're not even the same person. At 17 years, you hardly know yourself. She hardly knows herself. You were together, okay, great. But it's not supposed to be last a lifetime. And if it does, it's very abnormal. At 17 years, you don't even know who you are, let alone knowing what kind of girl you want. So everything has a duration, and that relationship had a duration of a few years, and that was even more than it should have been. It's time to become who you are by experiencing life, and now it's time for you to have a different girlfriend, because the consciousnesses are not necessarily growing in the same angle, the same tangent, and the same level just because you guys spending time together. The consciousnesses are developing differently, as they are like a canvas that when a tennis ball hits on it, depending on its weave and elasticity and the angle that the tennis ball has hit on it, it's going to bounce in with different velocity and different angles, back. So the consciousness is that the life is happening to each one of your consciousness, even though you're in a relationship, you're together, you're sharing lots of things. But the events and the things of life that is bouncing off of your weave of the canvas of your consciousness is going to react differently according to that happening, that event in life. And in that way, your consciousness is shaping differently. And it gets to the point that these two consciousnesses who are developing differently at that age are no longer compatible, because they have reacted to the same events of life differently based on the canvas and the woven canvas of the consciousness. And therefore, they are developing differently. And they are not compatible as they used to be when they were so young and they didn't have anything to be different. They were just basically similar. But as you grow and you react to events of life, your consciousness also grows and changes and so on. And then the divisions are created in how your consciousness has been formed, and the conflicts will become more and more. And therefore, one of these conflicts has resulted in you guys not wanting to be together, one of you or both of you. And naturally, she's going to be with somebody else, and you're going to be with somebody else, and that's perfectly fine. She broke up with me 3 months ago. I still love her. I want her back. No, you don't love her. You shouldn't love her. You can't love her. Why would you love her? Why would you love somebody who doesn't want to be with you? If she can change and not be the same with you, then you can too. It's your desire for pleasure that was probably the only girl you've had anything, going on that way with. So you think, oh, that's mine. My ego says she's mine. She can't be with anybody else. No, she's hers, her own. And you're your own. And her choices of not being with you or being with somebody else doesn't make you any less or more. If she's with you, doesn't make you more. If she's choosing somebody else, that choice doesn't make you any less. It just means that's her level. That's her level, her appreciation. And you're maybe too much for her. Who knows? Who cares what she thinks? You simply got to understand that you're 23 years old, for heaven's sake. You shouldn't be even thinking about marriage till about 7, 8 years from now. That's when you get to know some experiences and meet a few girls and understand what it's all about. And then you see, okay, what kind of girl you expect, what kind of mentality, what kind of expectations, standards, and then see if they measure up. Not just because they look good, okay, that's good enough. I'm with you. No. That's what it ends up like this. You got to expect a lot more from a woman to commit to, and see if she measures up as much as they see if you measure up. Freeze says break up 1 hour ago. Oh, fresh off the oven. And Jitender Kumar says, hi, Mehran 26 India. Hello there. Gender, please. I'm not necessarily familiar with names in all countries, and at the same time, the thumbnail is not so big to see it. Jitender, regarding your breakup, you can probably listen to what I said earlier in regards to the source of importance for that girl being your desire rather than herself. So you can disqualify her, not thinking that her qualities are because of her qualities. The qualities you see in her and the fact that you want her is because of your desire for her. And that means the source of her importance is you, not her. Is in your desire towards her, not her. If you understand that, then you got it. Yes, column. That's right. Yes, Nina. It is, and the more important it is, the more sensitive you become about it, and you start, all of that. The 111, you might want to look at my video called Are You in Denial? And then you will see the logic is used there for you to understand what you just asked here. David de Bourgenard says, can you make frog? Thought this was a science stream. Oh, it says, never mind, thought this was a... But where does it say? It says breakups, relationship, intrusive thoughts, OCD, HOCD. Where does it say that we can make frogs here? No, come on now, David. What's wrong with you? Let me change the number of this thing here. It's probably 60, 75 now. 75. All right. Gunther, I have a video called Groinal Response. You might want to check that out. I'm going to put it here. All right, there is the link for it. You might want to enjoy this after the show. All right. Look, you can have groinal response to anything. You can have a groinal response to a doorknob, shiny, nice, and it could have some kind of a sexual relevance of any kind. Could be anything, and you can have a groinal response. And you say that you had a groinal response when you were with your gay friend. Well, naturally, when a gay friend is there, you are reacting to the character, which is feminine. And if that's the case, then you are reacting to the feminist, or not feminist, the feminine feelings that you get. And so you're reacting like anything else. That is, if you're if you're getting a massage, let's say, by a man, and you get some kind of arousal, it's not because you like the man, it's because it's by touch. And if you see feminine behavior, whether it's a man or a woman, you may get some kind of reaction because it's the feminine behavior that causes that reaction, not what is having a feminine behavior. So you got to watch that groinal response, and then you will be a little bit more clear. Yeah, when you have a groin response, you don't have any um, objection to how you're feeling, so you can do what you do. But that's why your vetoes and choices are the master of your life, not your responses, uh, of this or that. You guys talk to your psychotherapist, and ERP is a very effective way of taking that sensitivity and fear or anxiety out. And so when the brain says there's no exchange of energy and anxiety created by these thoughts, and the brain finds these thoughts being irrelevant, and therefore it doesn't show up anymore. But when every time that it shows up, you have a sensitivity toward it, and you climb up the ladder of anxiety and you react to it, then there's an exchange of energy between the brain's put out energy and your reactive energy, and then it encourages the brain that there is an energy reaction here, therefore it gets rewired to bring these thoughts more and more. But when you ignore it through the fact that it's not important, and you don't pay attention to it, and you don't interpret it, or you don't let it be of some kind of a horrendous happening that, oh, such thought showed up, and you train yourself through a trained psychotherapist, expert in OCD and HOCD and ERP, and then such sensitivity goes away, and the reaction towards such thoughts will not have an energy track to it, energy signature to it. Therefore, when there is no energy reaction, the brain ceases to produce these things, as there's no rise from it. And brain is using any kind of occupation, any kind of thought, in order to find security, because brain doesn't find security how in the same way that the body finds its security in physicality. Like you're sitting in your apartment, the door is locked, it's in a good part of town, and you find security physically. You know where your limbs are, and you know everything is secure. There's no danger around it. Brain doesn't find that security in the same way through physical security. Brain finds its security through occupation, through engagement in occupation, meaning producing thoughts and getting exchange of energy between your intellect, you, and it, because they're two separate systems. When the brain creates a situation where it gets a rise out, it gets a response, that energy response causes the continuation of the occupation through exchange of energy for the brain, where the brain finds its security and it feels safe. Because the brain is very, very scared of everything. It's all about protection. And it is looking for security for itself. And it finds that when it's getting your energy into it, so it gets secure through exchange of energy between you. Its own energy doesn't give it security. It needs to be engaged to something. That's why constantly thinking about something is producing, to be occupied. And these constant thinking cause it to feel, okay, I have a home. Because the brain hasn't been trained to know that it has a place in the body to relax and find and call it its home. Look, you know where your limbs are, you know where things are, you know where you are. It's a physicality. But the brain doesn't have a physicality, therefore it doesn't have a home in the body. It's all over the place. It's in the moon, and then second later is coming back, and before you know it's gone to Mars, and it's to this country and that topic and this thing and that product and that science, that I don't know, song and that person and that experience, and all over the place. It finds its security in being occupied in different tangents of thoughts. That's why it creates all kinds of thoughts. It doesn't know any way else, because it's trying to get some kind of exchange with all these thoughts that it makes with something. Occupies itself so it won't be scared. It finds security so it can calm itself down. When it finds something that you respond to it, that energy connects it, and it makes more of that sort because it knows it's going to get energy back from you. So it is making HOCD thoughts or intrusive thoughts of some kind, depending on whatever your gender is. Then you get a rise, you get frightened, or you get responsive, you get protective of yourself, you object to it, you interpret it, and that gives it the energy that it wants, and you're training it to keep more of it, because that's how it finds the energy where it can find security in occupation. You don't give it occupation, it falls by the wayside. It dies. That's what you need to be good at. Pay no attention to the brain's productions. Then it dies because it learns that doesn't give it the energy. So not that one. I'm going to find something else and find something else. You don't pay attention to that either. It doesn't do that anymore. Everything. And eventually, while it doesn't get any answer, you also then start training it that there is a place for the brain to call home, hang its hat. That's how you try to train your brain through meditation and teach it which part of the body it also can focus and concentrate on and find its security in residing without having to be like a gypsy all over the place to find security. You got to train it so that it doesn't need to be occupied to find security. The factor default of the brain is that it needs to be occupied to find security. It finds security in the order of things, in the routine. So if it keeps coming up with intrusive thoughts and that becomes a routine where you pay attention to, and it can produce more because it says it gets a reaction from you, that becomes its order. Its order becomes making intrusive thoughts. When you don't pay attention to it. It doesn't find order or satisfaction or occupation in that exchange because of the thought that it made. Therefore, it learns that it's not going to work. And in the meantime, you're going to teach it that, look, you want to relax, you want to find security, you don't need to find it in occupation. You need to find it in what I'm teaching you. But then you teach it through understanding of mind and body coordination and teaching it where the mind can also be focused at through a menial occupation of movement of energy through the one point that we talked about, which is located about 10-20 centimeters lower the abdomen, where you do your meditation. Center of gravity with having your thoughts, your brain, your mind also focused there to bring the mind and body together. And the mind doesn't need to go conjure up thoughts and be occupied in these sort of energy exchange in order to find security through occupation. It can find security through relaxation and focusing on one menial function and movement of energy through the one point, which I've explained it. If you go on my channel and search for the word meditate, when you put meditate, there's meditation, then I've explained why meditation is important. Not even that it's going to increase the GABA neurotransmitter, which is it's very effective for dealing with intrusive thoughts, that neurotransmitter. And it also deals with anxiety and the depression. It also increases so many other neurotransmitters by volume. In other words, in big percentages. Growth hormones is increased, cortisol is decreased, and all the serotonin, all these dopamine, all these necessary neurotransmitters is all the results of meditation. And it also trains the brain that it can find security in your body, that it finds a place, a home in the body while it doesn't have a physicality, but it learns where in the body it can also join with the security that your physicality is enjoying. And that's where the coordination of mind and body takes place. That's where you see me in that classroom in that university that I demonstrated when the student lifted me up for 1 second and a second later couldn't lift me up. That's when the mind also goes where the body's center of gravity is, and together they become unified. When they become unified, they become part of the whole, and when they become part of the whole, they're part of the universe, and you become one. And who can lift the whole universe? That's why the guy couldn't lift me up. It's not because my mass changed from 1 second to another. So there are things that you can do in order to train your mind to learn how to calm down and not run around trying to create all kind of intrusive thoughts and other thoughts to create some kind of a security for itself through occupation by making thoughts. That's what it does. That's what it does. So many thoughts all day long. All right. Having said that, you can also watch the video number 11 in that playlist that I mentioned and video number 8 to have a little bit more understanding of the role of thoughts and consciousness and the relationship between the two and why intrusive thoughts are possible at all. So hopefully that was something useful for you guys. Basically, Najishi, intrusive thoughts or HOCD are intrusive thoughts that show up that it's not in line with your inclination, it's not in line with your values, it's meaningless to you, but it shows up. And you, having not understood that the brain is not you, you're not the brain, you believe a thought that showed up and made up by the brain, you kind of follow it and you believe if it could mean anything to you. So HOCD is suggesting an intrusive thought that you are not the gender that you are, or you're not interested in what you've always been interested, And that's because the malfunction, the disorder that is going on in the brain, and you seem to not understand that the brain can also malfunction in its signaling system, and you buy into it, and then you go on these tangents, and then you get affected by believing the brain's production, which is just nothing but nonsense and a thought, pretty much. And I suggest to you guys, go on internet, and I have the links for Dr. Philipson. He's an expert in OCD and HOCD. Dr. Jan Weiner, and there are many other therapists and so on that explain in detail different kinds of OCD, subsets of OCD, HOCD. Educate yourself rather than constantly being bombarded by the nonsense of the brain when it's malfunctioning, and then you have no other resource or knowledge, and then start believing the garbage that is coming from a garbage manufacturing plant, which is brain makes thoughts. And instead you think brain is actually intellect. Don't. And definitely watch Dr. Philipson's discussions on these topics and educate yourself. And then you can also watch my video I've made on this topic in 2 different playlists, hundreds of them. And one of them is specifically, are you or the brain is the you? That is a very interesting video. Informs you of the limitation of the brain and the separation of the brain and you and intellect and thoughts through scientific means, not just philosophical means. And these are ways that you can educate yourself. Shirin is here. Shirin Dawari says, it's difficult to stop reminiscing about the past and good memories now and then without feeling pain and missing the person you were with. It's hard not to want that person back or dwell on mistakes. Yeah, it's hard, but not impossible. You gotta weigh in, what do you get when you do that, and what would you get when you don't do that. When you dwell on the past, which doesn't exist, it will be never ending. You will always dwell on it, because it's not like when you go into the past and dwell on it and you come to a conclusion and the past is no longer a past and it's a present. It's escape from the reality and the present moment, which everything happens in it. And whenever you come out of it, nothing has changed and you still want to go back in there. So in other words, you're constantly training yourself to keep going into the memory rather than being part of life where everything happens and making things happen in the present moment. And so you're conditioning yourself to escape from what it is real and not facing with that whatever painful it was, and getting that over once and for all, and concluding that, look, that was painful, and that relationship was not about only the good parts. It had all kind of shit parts, and that's why it broke down. Because if it was all good, I wouldn't be sitting here thinking about it, because it would still go on. The reason it's not going on because there's lots of shit in it, and I'm just selecting the good parts and reminiscing on those and thinking that it must have been good because I'm reminiscing on the selected good parts. But that wasn't the whole thing. It was all good. You wouldn't be breaking it off. So instead of selecting the parts of that relationship, select the whole thing and think about it and say, okay, shit, I don't want that because I know how it was. But when you take all the bad parts and take only good parts, and you miss it. But you can't be having a relationship only on the good parts. That's why collectively, after experiencing the whole thing, including the bad parts, you decided you got to break this up, or it broke up by itself, or one of you broke it up because it wasn't balanced. It wasn't good. It had good things in it. Like anything, even if you have an apple with poison in it, well, the apple still has its taste of deliciousness in there, but it's laced with poison. So you can't say, oh, well, it's a poison apple, but it was tasty. Yeah, it was tasty, but the result of it was death. Because you ignore the poison in the apple and you focus on the sweetness of the parts of the apple that the poison hasn't reached yet. But eventually you're going to get to that poison part and you're going to die. And a relationship, the same thing. You can't just pick on the parts that were good and not consider the shit that was in it that destroyed everything and couldn't have made it go on and work. So if you focus on the entirety of the experience, then you wouldn't want to go into the memory reminisce on it, because you will see it in holistically. You can't be separating the intention and personality of the person who is a narcissist, or who is a abuser, or who is a violent person, and just take the parts, the times that the person is not violent, and say, oh, it was good though. Why did I break it up? Because they had so many shit along with it, so many dangers along with it. And that's why you got to see everything all together in its entirety. And on that basis, you will choose yes or no, continue or break it off. And that's what you have done, Shireen. And that's why you should not be reminiscing on these selective parts. It's not fair, it's not correct, it's not accurate, it's not truthful. Having said that, Nova says hello, Mehran, and all. Hello, Nova. Don't forget the protocol, Nova. Chester is here, male 27, Hawaii. Aloha, uncle. Aloha, Chester, dear. How are you? Says, hope you're doing good. Thank you very much. So far, so good. Leo the Lion is here. My goodness, where have you been? It's been a long time. Leo 28, Seattle, Washington. Hello, Mehran. Long time no see. Just wanted to let you know you're in my thoughts and I use your advice all the time. Thank you for helping me out. Hope everything is well. I'm delighted to hear that. Delighted to hear that you're still using the channel and it's helpful to you. And nothing better that I feel it's got some positive effect on you guys all. You all guys and girls. All right. All right. Well, guys, looks like we have answered all the questions. And Nikos is here, says, hello from Greece. Hello there. Well, you guys are showing up now that I'm almost done. It's 2 hours and 12 minutes. It's 3:12 right now. I guess it would be good if I cut it off now and maybe get a bite to eat and go for a walk. And then I have a Skype appointments tonight, so I wouldn't get the chance to go walking then. Shirin says, thank you. Always helpful to hear your advice and input. My pleasure, Shirin John. Good to see you here. And I have faith in you. Use that strong, wise, intelligent brain of yours and free yourself from being caught up in the vortex of thoughts, selective thoughts and memory based on pleasure parts of a limited duration of a relationship. And don't judge the whole relationship by selected parts. That's the trick of it. That's the trap. See it holistically, entirety, and be critical to it and understand the facts of it, which you know it very well better than anybody else, and move on from it. The hell with it. Nothing is equal to the worth of the whole opportunities that is out there, regardless of if it's available right now or not. Slobodan. Okay. All right, guys. Love you all. It's time for me to say I love you all. Thank you very much for being here, giving me the opportunity to share a thing or two with you. I look forward to talk to you again. Maybe tonight, if my appointment finishes on time and I was still with it, I will have another live stream at 9 usually, but maybe 10 tonight, or maybe not at all. In any case, if not, then hopefully talk to you guys next week. In the meantime, be good to yourself, to the others, and promote the channel. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.